what do you think is the best thing that atheists and agnostics can do to help further the slowing down of the effects religion is having?
As far as like me and other atheist YouTubers out there, I'd say there are various methods when it comes to that. You can be a firebrand, and some people are very receptive to like the amazing atheist style of content. Some people prefer a more formal civil format like Cosmic Skeptic. Just go with whatever one is more appealing to you, and if you're good at it, then hopefully you can bring some people over and make them see your side of things. However, I think that when it comes to talking one-on-one with a person, for example, in your family, the YouTuber firebrand method is not the way to go because in that situation, people tend to get very defensive. I forget where this analogy came from, but you ever heard of the rider and the elephants analogy?
No, I haven't.
I forget who came up with this right now, but basically, he argued that like your brain is essentially made up of two parts. There's the rider and there's the elephant. And the rider is the rational part of your brain, and the elephant is the emotional part of your brain. And the elephant is obviously a lot stronger than the rider is.
Yeah.
So you have to appeal to that emotional side of the elephant in order to get it moving because no matter what that rider tells the elephant to do, no matter how rational that part of your brain is. Unless you get that emotional side to, be receptive first, they're not going to go in either direction. So when it comes to example talking to, let's say maybe your mother, your father, your brother, or sister, you want to make sure that you have like a trusting, like civil connection with them beforehand. Because if you come at them with hostility, they're just going to shut down.
Right. No one wants to be yelled at, or no one wants to be told that they're an idiot or anything like that. Yeah. I think once if you can demonstrate the flaw in their argument, people tend to be less likely to be able to ignore that. I like the Socratic method. I love asking questions. When someone presents, I want to hear their argument, and I want to ask questions. I want to say, well, would this also work? But by this method, would this also work? Well, if we can find some scenarios where this doesn't work, how can we know this is a reliable method?
I was about to mention that actually. I think the Socratic method is probably the best way to engage with people one-on-one because it makes them do a lot of the legwork on their own. You're asking them a question, and those questions make them have to think for themselves, how does this all work out? It's not you telling them what to think, it's them thinking through it on their own. And I remember there are a couple of channels out there who do a thing called street epistemology.
All right.
You just watch these videos and like you see the Christian or whatever theist debating the atheist. And you just like see them beginning to like that faith they had in God before begin to wither away because like, oh my God, this really doesn't make sense.
Well, a lot of the times they're getting questions they've actually never heard before. Mm-hmm. They've never been presented with them because of where they live, their family, their community are all like-minded individuals. They think like them. They believe like they do. When we get into the idea of debate and how to deconvert people, we seem to see a lot of the whole religion and politics is the two things you should never talk about with people because it's considered it's considered rude by some. It's considered like you're encroaching on the very fabric of who they are.
Yeah.
And as I said, I watch a lot of your videos, and even with the political ones, it's like we need to the theme seems to be we need to get away from this attachment we have to ideas. Do you think that's fair?
I think that is fair, but as far as actually accomplishing that, I think it's very difficult. I mean, there are ideas that I had, let's say, 5-10 years ago, and I think it's like just part of human nature to when you hold a belief, you don't just think of it as like, oh, there's this belief, floating in the ether around me. It's like, no, this is a part of who I am. It's part of your identity now. So when you begin to have someone challenge that idea, they take it personally very often. I think most people feel like a sense of discomfort when an idea that they believe is like a fundamental truth begins to get questioned because it's like, no, you're destroying a part of me in a way. That's why, I do think the Socratic method is probably the safest bet that people have in actually changing people's minds, because I think it's the least attack-esque method of doing it. It's just more questioning and them doing like self-attacking, you might say.
Oh, right. When I talk to people, I want them to tell me what they believe first. Like, I want you to tell me exactly what it is. I want you to define it for me. I want you to, and then I'm gonna ask you some questions about it. And after that, you'll usually get well, this is different. This is not the same thing, or this is I didn't tell you about this part yet. And it becomes a lot of post hoc rationalization and moving the goalpost to try to make it fit back into where they wanted it to be, because now you've moved that idea into the realm of something that might not work.
I think it's important to keep in mind, even when you are having these conversations with people, that people usually don't just like flip their opinion over the course of one conversation. I mean, like in an ideal world where people weren't super emotional, if we were like totally rational human beings, we could do that in a heartbeat. But it can take time. So I think in many cases, it could just take multiple discussions before they fully break away. Or if people have time to themselves to engage in some introspection, and they could just break away at that point.
Oh, absolutely. And I love it. I love the idea of too that we need to get more used to just basically pushing pause on a conversation, saying, I have no idea about that. That's something I haven't considered yet. You could be right. Let me go look into this.
And that's why I always try to provide like a source for everything I claim in my videos. I mean, I don't have any PhD, I don't have any special medical degree. So, why should people trust my word? They really shouldn't. But I can provide sources to experts who can back up the claims I'm making. So, throughout my video, I'm not sure, you might notice like I'll have in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, I'll have like a URL to where I got my information from. And I hope that people who, do question what I'm saying, as they rightfully should, can go to those links and be like, oh, well, what he said was true. Here's the evidence for it.